There's a lot of money out there to pay for college, but the costs seem to be going higher and higher.
The sticker price versus the net price is quite different.
Most colleges charge a lot less than you think.
Savings is good. Savings will give you more choices.
Taking out some debt is okay.
Applying for financial aid is not going to affect your chances for admissions. We have solutions for you. Join us for our program, Paying for College with the Greens.
Funding for Paying for College with the Greens is provided by
You have within you a precious gift. Whatever you do,
whatever challenges you face, you can succeed
because you can learn your whole life through.
Thompson Learning, a part of the Thompson Corporation, delivers tailored learning solutions worldwide.
Bank One believes that when it comes to personal, business, and institutional financial needs, you deserve the answer that's right for you. This hour of Paying for College with the Greens is proudly supported by Bank One.
J.P. Morgan Chase, providing financial services to individuals, institutions, corporations, and governments around the world, is proud to bring you Paying for College with the Greens on PBS.
What family doesn't dream about giving their children an education to help them secure a future that's happy, that's successful, that's fulfilling? And thinking about college makes everyone then ask, how are we going to afford to pay for college today?
And who isn't concerned about increasing tuition costs and rising debt loads that make college seem even less affordable than ever? I'm Matthew Green.
And I'm Howard Green, and we're going to help you understand how you can afford to pay for college for your children.
We seem to be kind of in a good news, bad news situation right now in terms of paying for college. There's a lot of money out there to pay for college, but the costs seem to be going higher and higher. You see a lot of headlines, it's 26% increase or a 35% increase or a 10% increase in tuitions and fees that are already very high. And of course we know that's just tuition and fees. There's also room and board and the cost of living that goes with that. And it seems that the media is focusing more and more on what college costs and how it's so much higher than it used to be. It's taking up maybe a third of family income or more to pay for a four-year college. Student loan debt is now over $17,000 on average, and 70% of students graduate with loans. That's compared to under 50% just 10, 15 years ago. So things have been changing. The environment is really different. What we want to suggest to you is that, yes, college is expensive. It's a major life purchase. It's probably the next most important and expensive investment compared to buying your first house. But it's doable, and most families can afford it if they plan carefully.
The good news, as we speak, there's $105 billion in federal, state, and local aid and institutional aid available. You're going to hear today from financial aid people who will tell you you can do it and they're here to help you. You will see that college is affordable. What we want to do is show you what the resources are and what's the best way to plan so you can go to college.
Three families from our audience have agreed to help us out by talking a little bit about their concerns and goals for paying for college. And I'd like to introduce them to you. First we have Mike and Chalmer.
Hello, my name is Shalmer, and this is my husband, Michael. This is Nonu, who's 8 years old, and she's in the first grade. This is JC, who's 5 years old and in the kindergarten. And this is Mudiwa, and she's in the 6th grade, and she's 11 years old.
Mudiwa will enter college in 2011. Noni will enter college in 2014. JC will enter college in 2017.
Jay and Pina.
Hello, my name is Jay. This is my wife, Pina, and my eldest daughter, Manisha. She's 17 and she's a junior at high school. I also have a middle daughter, and her name is Kavita. She's 15. Then my son, the youngest, he's Bhavin, and he's 12. He's in 6th grade.
Manisha will enter college in 2005. Kavita will enter in 2007. Bhavin will enter in 2011. If Manisha attends medical school, her family could be paying for college from 2005 through 2015.
Now, Manisha, we had a chance to talk with you earlier, and you told us you're already planning to go on to graduate school. You're thinking about medicine, so you said your concern was not only how you and your parents will pay for college, but also graduate school. And it's a very, very important concern. And we do urge families, as you're thinking about college, even if you do not have an idea of what you want to study, you in a sense have to be thinking, I'm likely to go on to graduate school somewhere in my future. So as I make decisions and as I plan what kind of college will work for me, that ought to be on two bases. One is, where will I do well as a student? Where can I excel so that I'll have opportunities for grad school? And also, how can I manage the undergraduate costs so I'm not going to go into a great deal of debt? And we have Chuck and Patty here.
Hi, my name is Chuck. This is my wife, Patty. We have 3 children. Michael is 19 years old and will be a sophomore at the University of Southern California. My daughter, Becca, is 18 years old. She's a senior and she'll be a freshman at the University of Dayton. And our son, Sam, is 16 years old and he's a sophomore in high school.
Michael will be a sophomore in college in 2004. Becca will be a freshman in 2004. Sam will be a freshman in 2006. By 2006, all 3 will be attending college at the same time.
Thank you all for joining us. We have you here, in a sense, representing the 3 different stages of planning both for college and, of course, savings for college.
One of the reasons I think people are so stressed out about paying for college is it's very unpredictable in some ways. You don't know exactly which college you're going to pick in 5 years or 3 years or 10 years. You don't know if you're going to get a scholarship, if you're going to take out a loan, how much your savings will be worth. It's not a fixed point kind of thing.
Well, let us show you on a pie chart the 5 sources that you're going to turn to pay for college. And we like to start with the first on top, savings. And we're going to keep repeating today, savings is good. The more you can save as you go through this process, obviously the less you will have to take out in loans down the road when you're in college or your children will have to take out, the more help you are likely to get from colleges, and we'll explain that in a minute too. Parent income is, of course, a continuing source as well. And each year that you are in college, you as parents will be filling out financial aid forms which will indicate your present income as well as assets, but also your expenses and all other items that are pertinent to analyzing financial need. Student work. Students are expected to contribute to their education, both through savings and summer jobs and any money that might be put away in their name. Student work jobs are very much a part of a package built into financial aid awards as well. So those 3 elements, parent income, savings, and student work, form what is called the estimated family contribution. You'll hear that term used by financial aid directors as they evaluate a family's application for financial aid. Scholarships and grants, well, all of you want the scholarships and grants to be the whole pie there, but it probably won't be. And a difference between a scholarship and a grant is typically the money that colleges will allocate to a student who shows financial need, and that's going to be based on these other items and the forms you will complete. Scholarships tend today to be referred to awards based on outstanding student ability, outstanding various talents, what are often called merit-based awards, and we will talk more about that later as well. And then loans are educational loans that parents may be taking out, but also students. One of the biggest shifts that we've seen in this generation of college-going students is more of the burden for paying for college or paying back for college will be put on the shoulders of students. And this is Matt mentioned earlier, why the average student loan graduating from college is now approaching $18,000. Now again, the more that any of you can build those other pieces of the pie, the smaller the loan piece of the pie will become.
So you see 5 key components of paying for college. Which one do you think you'd like to have be the biggest slice of your pie? Well, savings and probably scholarships and grants, right? Scholarships and grants you don't need to pay back. We had the chance over the past year to talk with some financial aid officers and ask them their opinion about financial aid and for some advice for students. And right now we'd like to show you some words they had for you about the importance of savings as you look ahead to college.
When families come to me and they're a little bit confused about why they should bother to save, I often tell them it's better to save and earn interest than to pay interest, and saving for college gives you more options. Even if you don't save a whole lot of money, it still gives you more options at the time your child goes to college.
I think the most common misconception about savings is it doesn't pay to save. Or another version of that is we're penalized if we save. We hear that all the time. If you actually look at the way savings are treated in this formula that we talked about that determines the expected family contribution, it ends up at about 5% of your savings are expected to flow into this formula and be paid towards college education.
But for a student, that percentage is a bit higher. So there is a difference in what the federal government expects a parent to contribute of their assets versus a student. They look at that parent as someone who also has to save for retirement and possibly for other children in the household. But the student's income and assets are looked at things that should be used for their education.
Start a savings plan now, no matter how small. Just get yourself in the habit of saving.
You heard some very important advice there. Probably the biggest piece of advice is to start a savings plan. So when some families say, well, why, I have a 5-year-old, why should I be thinking about college? It's because if you start saving now, using the power of compounding interest, as you heard there, it's better to have banks pay you interest than for you to pay the bank's interest after taking out a whole pile of loans to pay for college later.
Compound interest helps your investments grow larger over time. This is because as you earn interest on your initial investment, you also earn interest on the interest. If you earn 10% annually on your initial investment, you should be able to double that investment in just 7 years.
The other thing that I hope you heard in there is that parents' savings, only about 5% of that is expected to go towards paying for a student's college education.
A student's savings will be allocated at a higher percentage rate, but even there, not all of it. And again, we've heard parents say, well, shouldn't we put all of our savings in our children's name rather than in our own? Isn't that a better thing to hide the money or stash it over in their names? No, not true at all. Colleges will take into account the age of parents, number of children in school, a percentage towards retirement, medical concerns, all of that. So in a way, it's best to put savings in a parent's name.
Chalmer and Mike, you have younger children. Have you been thinking about savings already as you plan early for college?
Yes, we've already begun some 529 plans for the children, recognizing that costs are continuing to escalate and that we want to have them go to possibly our alma mater where we both met actually as undergrads. And so what we've done is actually indexed our savings to our particular alma mater, which is in a major metropolitan area in the United States on the East Coast, so that if they want to go there or somewhere similar to there in cost, they'll have that opportunity when it comes time for them to go to college.
You've got a plan. This is fantastic. 529 plans are tax advantage savings accounts that were created by the federal government to allow you to invest for education without tax penalties. And when you get tax advantage savings accounts, it means your money is growing more easily and you're not getting penalized for putting the money away. We love 529 plans. We really think this is one of the main things you can do if you have younger children, is go out and open a 529 plan for every one of them. You can invest regularly. You can start to look ahead. You can do the calculations on the college's websites, and you can get a sense of what you need to put away regularly to reach the point where savings is a big part of the pie involved in paying for that college. Now, you might not get all the way there, and you don't need to. Okay? But if you can save at least a big chunk of it, you're going to make things a lot less painful as you move forward in time, and you start to actually look at filling out those financial aid applications.
529 plans are administered differently in each state. Most plans allow you to choose a variety of risk levels based on the age of your children. Since most are tax-free, all of your investment and earnings can be used to pay for college.
Michael, you've mentioned starting to save early. How did you decide on a strategy, and how did you decide to invest in a 529 plan?
Well, I was doing some reading in the popular press, the newspapers, also doing some website searching, and that's one of the vehicles that came up that seemed of interest to me given the ages of our children being so young. So in consultation with our financial advisor, we kind of went through a Q&A with them, determining whether that was a very good vehicle to use or not, and what particular plan we would want to have. With the 529, you do have different allocations within the plan itself. And so with our children being at different ages, right now currently 5, 8, and 11, obviously an 11-year-old is going to be in college sooner, so you may not be quite as aggressive with her investment allocations and diversification as you would be with a 5-year-old, and really working all those things out. But given the tax benefits, given the compounding that we would get from that, we saw it as being a very good starting vehicle for saving for our children.
There's a concept behind what Michael is saying. When your children are younger, if you're starting to save earlier, you can be a little bit more risk-taking or aggressive in terms of what investments you might go into. As your children get closer to college age, you want to become very conservative and make sure that money is not going to, quote, disappear, so to speak. So that's very helpful. Thank you.
If you put $25 to $50 a month into a 529 account, you might have $5,000 to $10,000 in that account over 10 years. Now, $5,000 to $10,000 covers a lot of the college education at most colleges. That's because most colleges charge a lot less than you think. You're going to hear some pretty large figures as we talk about college costs, upwards of $30,000, $40,000. That tends to be what the media focuses on. Or you tend to hear, oh, there's a 30% increase. But in fact, most students attend colleges that cost a lot less than that. We have a little graph to show you on that. Most students attending four-year colleges and universities attend colleges that charge less than $8,000 a year. Only a third of students, give or take, attend colleges that cost more than $8,000 a year. That's because most students in America attend public colleges and universities. And the average charges for those, especially for in-state students, are quite low. So if you do end up putting $25 to $50 away a month, and you accumulate $4,000, $5,000, $10,000 over the course of 10 or 15 years, you can cover a substantial portion of the college costs at most schools around the country. And again, this is what colleges charge. We want to talk a little bit about what sticker price means.
Let us reassure you that something called the sticker price versus the net price is quite different. It's estimated that only 20, perhaps 25% of all students enrolled in college right now are paying the full sticker price of the college they attend. Why the big differential there? Scholarships, grants, work-study, merit scholarships. Many universities and colleges are using a combination of need-based grants and merit-based scholarships to attract quality students. The better student you are, the more choices you're going to have. And if you're already in college, the better student you are, you can knock on that door of the financial aid office and say, we need more help. I am in good student standing here. And I would be very surprised if a financial aid officer would not respond to that. They don't want to lose good students. At some of the schools, for example, that now are in the bracket of $40,000 a year, anywhere from 50% to 75% of the students at those schools are receiving financial aid. So don't let sticker price scare you off right away. Start your search in terms of where do I want to go to college that I might succeed.
Let's hear from the financial aid officers again with their opinion about sticker price.
The sticker price for a Pomona College education for the class that will be entering in the fall of 2004 is about $41,000. At this point in time, it appears that the average family contribution will be somewhere between $12,000 and $13,000. But you have to remember that's average. There are many families who have much lower contributions, and there are those that have higher contributions.
Princeton education, kind of the sticker price we might call it, next year will be about $40,000 for all these ingredients, the cost of attendance. However, if we look at the aid in the factor, our average parental contribution is about $14,000 for our students. And the rest of it is made up with university and outside scholarships and grants, student work, and things like that. So if you're looking at the average cost for a financial aid student, which is about half our student body at Princeton, it's about $14,000 out of the $40,000. All the rest is made up from other sources.
Again, some key points there. You may be attending an institution that costs $40,000 or $30,000, but the actual cost to you, once you look at grants and scholarships, might only be $12,000, $14,000 or lower. Schools like Princeton and some other highly selective universities, public and private, have now started to decrease the proportion of aid packages made up of loans. They've started, for particularly families in the lowest income quartile, to do away with loans altogether or try to decrease what's called the self-help portion that students and families are expected to contribute of a financial aid package. And remember, these are the $40,000 a year total cost schools. Most students don't attend private colleges that cost that much. Most are in public institutions. Again, that's 2/3 of students at four-year colleges are in public colleges and universities. And the total cost there, room, board, tuition fees, etc., is under $15,000 on average. So remember, putting a little bit away, you can take a big chunk out of that tuition cost and help yourself, even if you get financial aid, to have the money available so that you don't have to take out as many loans.
A couple of rules of thumb we want to urge you to consider. Number one, applying for financial aid is not going to affect your chances for admissions. That's another myth out there. We have many families say, we understand if you apply for aid, you're damaging, you're hurting your child's chances of being accepted to a selective college. That is not true. Now, not every college in the country can do the following, but most try to practice what's called in the trade need-blind admissions. I don't know if any of you have heard that phrase, but it literally is trying to separate admissions decisions in one office entirely separate from the financial aid office, and it's after students have been admitted that their applications for financial aid go to a separate office where they're evaluated, and this EFC and all other circumstances are gauged. So do not let applying for aid dissuade you from applying to a competitive college that you're truly interested in.
Manisha, have you started to look into any scholarship opportunities? You're seeing anything that jumps out at you as you look at colleges
I've
now?
checked a couple websites, and my mom's helped me, and we've looked online, and there's a couple websites such as FastWeb. And so I've been filling out some, most of them for seniors only, but the ones for juniors, I've been trying to compile them. So.
What are some examples, just some kinds of scholarships that you're seeing?
There was one presidential scholarship, then there was a sports scholarship, so I just applied for a couple of those. So you just have to write maybe a 100, 200 word essay.
So it takes that active looking. It's not going to just fall into your lap. Right. Your school may have some resources for you. They may have a list of scholarships that have been awarded to students who've graduated from your high school. So you want to check the guidance office as well. Websites are a great way to find information now. There are a lot of good websites available. The federal government at the Department of Education has a lot of information on scholarships and grants. One of the things to be careful of as you start to look at web searches in particular is charging for scholarship searches. You should never have to pay for a scholarship search. There's just too much free information out there. So there are a lot of scams. Maybe you want to address that a little bit more, Dad.
Yeah, we've had some sad stories where people have said we've spent $500, $1,000. We were promised by this organization that they would guarantee to find scholarships, and either they disappear into the night, or fundamentally what they do is send a family what you could have done on your own is just information about federal funding. So we urge you not to pay anybody any money to seek out financial aid. You have all these wonderful resources on the web, or go into any bookstore and you'll see some very good directories as well. Another very important rule of thumb for you to follow: check out the endowments of the universities and colleges that you are considering. I can't tell you how powerful an engine that is in helping you to pay for your college. Endowment, just basically, as you may know, means the wealth of the institution, how much it has invested in programs. And the wealthier colleges tend to have very strong financial aid programs. Harvard is one of the most expensive schools in the United States. It has a $19.5 billion endowment, and 75% of all students receive financial aid. If you didn't know that, but looked at the cost of going to that college, you'd probably run away very quickly. This is information you can get from every college in the United States by checking their website, or if and when you do a visit to campus, you can ask the admissions office, you can ask the financial aid people what amount of money is in endowment that's allocated for financial support for students. You can also ask what percentage of students receive financial aid at this institution, is a very telling figure. And then thirdly, what's the average financial aid package? And you just heard the Director of Financial Aid at Princeton give you some of that information at his institution. Every school should give that to you.
Again, the wealthier the college based on endowment, the more they're able to supplement federal and state grants with institutional grants. And remember, grants you don't have to pay back. So it's one of the pieces of the pie you'd like to maximize, right? Grants, as we said, are typically need-based. Scholarships are typically merit-based. There are different routes for applying for these things. Some of them may be an athletic scholarship. Specifically, you have to write this essay and send it into this organization. It may be a special merit award scholarship you have to pursue. Most of the money that's given away out of that $105 billion or so of aid available is given away in need-based grants from the federal government. So how do you get this aid? You have to apply for it. You can't just send in an application to the college for admission and then expect somehow in April of senior year they're going to say, okay, great, you guys obviously qualify for aid, and so here's your package. You have to apply for aid at the same time that you apply for admission. Otherwise, you won't be in the pool. So you really need to get your applications in there. You need to pay careful attention. We're going to have some more comments here by the financial aid officers about applying for aid.
This is the financial aid office at Pomona College. Pomona has a need-based financial aid program, and as a result, each spring we receive a few thousand financial aid applications. They come to us either by electronic mail or paper mail. Each day we receive our mail in buckets like this. During our peak season around February 1, we'll receive at least 3 buckets of mail a day. Inside these buckets will be applications for financial aid, copies of family tax returns, and letters of special circumstances, plus a variety of other documents families feel we need to evaluate their eligibility for financial aid.
My name is Asabri, and I'm currently sorting the mail that we have received. The mail is sorted within 48 hours of receipt, and it is an important process that we do. It is first sorted by returning students and then by new applicants. If it is for new applicants, we determine whether they are regular decision or early decision applicants. And after that, it is filed away in the file cabinets.
This is where we keep the financial aid application for students applying for admission. About 60% of our 5,000 applicants for admission will file financial aid applications. Once the applications are all sorted, they go into these drawers and both of these 2 cabinets. We've kind of outgrown our space now and have to use paper boxes for the overflow. Once a student has been admitted, the file will be pulled and it will go to a counselor.
I'm one of the financial aid counselors at Pomona College, and I'm one of the 3 people who determine families' eligibility for financial aid at Pomona College. I'm going through the tax return and the W-2s in order to determine how much the family actually had in income, what was untaxed income, and ultimately I'm establishing how much a family is able to pay and their eligibility for grant aid at Pomona College.
The one thing families have to do to apply for financial aid is complete an aid application. The most commonly completed application is the FAFSA, the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. There is a paper version, but there's also an electronic version at the FAFSA website. We really encourage families to file those FAFSAs online because, as you saw, we're inundated with paper. When completing these forms, it's really important for families to be as honest as they possibly can and to give us the most accurate information about their situation. Because after all, our goal is to help them find the money they need to make college possible. Our goal is not to deny you financial aid, but to find the financial aid that you need.
Wow, there's a lot of helpful information in that presentation. And particularly the end of the financial aid director doesn't see her job as keeping people out of college. It's to help them find the means to come to college. Over my long career, I can tell you, I haven't met a financial aid person who didn't say, I'm a counselor, I'm an educator, I'm not a mathematician. What I want to do is try to stretch our budgets, do everything possible to guide students to pay for college.
One of the things that the Pomona financial aid director had to say was we get a big pile of mail in February 1st or so.
Buckets and buckets.
Buckets of mail. That means you need to get your things in before February 1st. So one of the rules of thumb for applying for financial aid and making sure you can maximize the aid you get is to apply early. And the earliest you can apply for financial aid is January 1st of the year that you're going to start college. So if you're going to college in September, You apply in January of that year. So Manisha, when you start thinking about college next fall, you'll be getting your admissions applications together and then waiting till January of senior year to file your financial aid forms before you hear from colleges, typically in April for the following semester.
Several times now, the word profile has been mentioned. Many universities, in addition to requiring families to complete the FAFSA, which is the federal aid form, there's something called the College Scholarship Service Profile, which asks for some additional information. Any college you're thinking of seriously applying to, ask them if they require both this profile information data sheet as well as the FAFSA forms.
Underlying all of this is pretty much the same family information. It's largely your tax return and your W-2 forms. It might be data about assets that you have, and that would hold true for students and parents. So you've kind of got to be gathering this information. You heard that there's a paper copy of the FAFSA. You can fill this out in paper, and it's available from the Department of Education. However, they prefer the online version. Okay? They have tons of paper accumulating. So if you can, it's best to go online, fafsa.ed.gov, and fill it out there. You can use a public library computer. You can use your school's computer. If you don't have the resources at home to do this, ask for help from a school guidance office because they can help you fill these things out.
If you're not sure whether you'll qualify for aid, do a rough estimate, which you can do on any of the computer-based programs or a number of financial aid guidebooks that you can get in the stores. And it gives you a chance to walk through the basic estimated family contribution, and you can come away saying, you know, we see a spread between what a private university or a state school might cost. Why not apply for aid? As we said earlier, it is not going to impact on your chances for admission.
Anyone can apply for aid. It doesn't matter how young or old you are. The most important qualifications are that you are a United States citizen, have a high school diploma or equivalent, and that you are applying to a degree-granting institution. Make sure you submit your FAFSA online or by mail after January 1st, but as soon as possible. By now, Michael and Becca know that they have to apply for financial aid every year. This means that they will need to complete a FAFSA this year and again next year. By 2006, Michael, Becca, and Sam all will require annual financial aid applications.
Becca, you're a senior this year. You've already applied to college. You've already got your aid forms in, I hope?
Yes, we have.
Okay, great. Your brother, Michael, have you reapplied for financial aid already?
Yeah.
Okay, what was that process like for you?
I honestly was not all that involved in the filing of the papers.
Okay. Did you have the financial aid angel preparing your forms? Is that
That was pretty much it, yeah.
I applied for financial aid both years. So when Michael was a senior in high school, we started that process. And then the second year, actually, it was much easier. We knew what to expect, and it was much more streamlined from the first year. So we've been through it twice now.
One thing that I think we found when I was applying to schools was I applied to several universities. And when you don't realize which universities you're going to be accepted to, it's very difficult because you'll be filling out 5, 6, 7 application forms for financial aid. And you know that in the end, only one school is going to matter.
A lot of paperwork, right? A lot of file keeping, and this is where we go to the concept of a family partnership. And absolutely, you cannot apply for financial aid on your own unless you really are an independent student. That's typically someone who's 25 or over, who's independent completely from parents in terms of income. But most college-bound students out of high school are what are referred to as dependent students, still receiving support from their parents. And so the aid forms require parents and students to work together. We call it forming a partnership, to fill out the forms, to look at deadlines and so on, and to communicate with financial aid offices. You might be wondering what happens to all of that data that I put into the FAFSA form or the profile form or the institutional aid form. It's a lot of data. It's tax information and so on. For most students who fill out the FAFSA form, the information goes to the Department of Education and it's processed. And this is the formulaic part. They're just looking at the numbers. There are not a lot of human beings involved at this point. And what is produced is a student aid report, sometimes called the SAR. which then goes to the colleges you select. So if you're applying to 6, 7, 8 colleges or 3 or 4, you select that your SAR will be delivered to the colleges you're interested in.
One of the comments we hear constantly from financial aid officers is please tell students and their parents to be very clear, very careful, be very, very sure of your mathematics. In other words, don't let the financial aid forms sit there because they're incomplete. That's their great frustration. So be sure to do it carefully rather than quickly. And it's also very important to check. Once you've sent all your information in, you really should check both with the admissions office that your application is complete, that they've received all the forms from your high school, your recommendations, and also contact the financial aid office and ask them, do you have everything you need from us?
When we review applications, we're really looking for information that is consistent and accurate. Sometimes families are a little overwhelmed by the application process, so they either don't understand something that we're looking for, or they make an assumption, or they don't actually answer the question at all. So if we're reviewing applications, that's what we're usually doing, is looking for clarity and consistency.
Well, first we look at the nuts and bolts, which are the numbers, when we review a financial aid application. Income, assets, family members, number in college, things like that. But then we look at the context after that. There are white space in our application, we get letters, we get other information, and basically after we start with the fundamental calculation, we look at all the special circumstances of the family and then make adjustments off the base based on how we read the kind of subtleties in the application.
Did you notice that the Dean of Financial Aid, a very experienced man of over 30 years, said there's a white space in there, and that really refers to those things that don't show up in the data, that won't be on paper necessarily, and that's where you have an opportunity, if there are unique circumstances that need to be explained, to contact financial aid directors or their associates. And anything that you need to have explained, put it in writing as well, so it's there for a committee.
You also, I hope, heard that there were letters related to special circumstances, letters related to changes in jobs, health crises, multiple siblings, I came here from abroad. Any kind of particular family circumstance is something you can explain in additional letters to the financial aid office. And that's where we get to a little bit more of the gray area in terms of how aid is awarded. Once you have a sense of what your financial need is, the college has said, given your expected family contribution and the total costs of our college, here's your financial need. And we're going to cover that, this is your financial aid award, in a few ways. Hopefully a lot of it's grants and scholarships. Some of it may be in the forms of loans and work-study awards. And work-study means getting a job, typically on campus, or it's often in a local community service organization, and contributing to your own education. And you may think work-study might be confined to menial jobs or non-interesting jobs or make-time types of jobs, but actually we even have work-study students working here in the studio with us on this shoot. And there are many, many, many research-oriented and other interesting kinds of jobs that you can do to fulfill your work-study hours.
Work-study positions are typically subsidized by the federal government. Students can receive a work-study position as part of a financial aid package. Work-study positions accommodate course schedules while providing valuable work experience and a great source of additional income.
Here's a not very well-kept secret to share with you. The better you are as a student, the stronger your academic profile as you're applying to college. Frankly, the higher your SATs or ACTs are, colleges can respond not only in terms of admitting you, but they can shape a financial aid package that can be much more attractive to you than if you were not as good a student. So what often happens is students may have several comparable offers of financial aid as a package, but the components of that can be very different. And we generally find the stronger the student, the more the student and family have saved, the lower the loan component will be.
Let's take a look for a minute at what happens if you don't plan early and put enough away in savings, and if you don't have enough scholarships and grants to help fund your education. We take a look at our 5 pieces of the pie. The loan pie has gotten quite large, and scholarships and grants and parent income, savings and student work are smaller. It's possible, if you're looking at an expensive college, and you haven't put enough away and you don't receive significant scholarships and grants, that you may be covering half or more of your cost with loan debt. Obviously, it's a lot better to take out less loan debt than more loan debt. We'd rather have the savings portion of the pie be larger than the loan portion of the pie. So keeping loan debt down certainly can be an objective, but we also want to say that college is an investment, and you are planning for a future career or future career flexibility, greater earning power, lower unemployment rates, all these things that happen with a college education. And so taking out some debt is okay. It's understanding how much debt you're going to take out and what it's going to cost to pay that back that's very important. If you're thinking about graduate school, maybe you don't want to take out so much debt and then go on to medical school or engineering school and so on. You have to have a sense of that long-term progression, but some debt is all right.
Because Manisha knows that she wants to go to medical school, she needs to be careful not to create too much debt in undergraduate school. Equally important, if Manisha takes on too many work opportunities, her studies could suffer. Her family will need to make college financial choices anticipating as much as 8 years of higher education.
You're investing in your future, obviously, and that's why all of you as parents will do what you have to do to help your children get educated. Matthew mentioned before that applying for financial aid and to college is a partnership, and we want to really underscore that. And there seems to be this funny uncomfortableness in many households to share enough financial information, what we have saved, what our assets are, what our earning generally is. And students need to know this in order to then start their search for college. So part of the partnership is sharing information as parents to your students, and students, part of your partnership obviously is doing as well as you can academically, is going to give you lots of choices. And secondly, your contributions through working and saving is very important as well.
There are different kinds of loan debt. Some you might call good loans and some bad loans, or better loans and worse loans. The best loans to have are subsidized loans, where the federal government subsidizes the interest on those loans while you're in school. You might hear these referred to as subsidized loans, and particularly the Stafford Loan Program from the federal government. Perkins loans are another kind of loan that you can have as part of a financial aid package. Anything that's subsidized is good, because again, this interest can accumulate while you're in school, but if it's subsidized, the federal government will pay that. Unsubsidized loans, the interest will accumulate and be added to the debt that you have when you graduate and start repaying the loans upon graduation. If there's a gap between what you've been awarded financially in a financial aid package and what your financial need is, you're in trouble, right? How am I going to pay for college? One of the biggest areas, fastest growing areas of financial aid today is private loans. And there are many, many banks and commercial lenders that are offering private loans, typically to parents, sometimes parents and students as co-signers, to supplement the aid you might get from state or federal governments or from institutional loans from the colleges themselves. So there are a variety of ways to fill that gap, and you'll need to sit down as a family and say, how much of this debt do we want to reasonably take on for the long term?
One other popular loan program, you'll hear this and see this in all the literature, is the PLUS loan, which is a government-subsidized parent loan. You have to pay the interest as soon as that loan is taken out, but it's federal monies which parents can borrow for their children's education. So it's in addition, or rather than students taking out some of these other loan programs Matthew mentioned.
If you start to have some questions about financial aid packages, especially about loans, start to think about them in terms of one loan package compared to one scholarship package and so forth. If you look at your pie again, and you have these 5 components, we've already said that you'd like to keep savings up, and you'd like to keep scholarships and grants up. Now you're looking at the loan portion of a financial aid package at a particular college, and there are differences between financial aid packages that you might get. If you have questions that start to develop, well, what does a subsidized loan mean? I don't understand the terms of this loan. Or what does this unsubsidized loan mean? Do I have to take all of the loans that have been awarded to me? We really encourage you to start talking to the financial aid officers again. You may do this through the process of applying to college, and you can also do it at the end point when you are comparing financial aid awards and start asking them, I don't understand this. Can you explain this to me? What are the terms? What am I getting into here? Let's look a little bit more from the financial aid officer's perspective about what they encourage you to do as a family in terms of working with them.
I think my top piece of advice for families is to communicate with the aid office at the schools that your son or daughter is thinking about attending. We all operate and use the same federal programs, but there are still a lot of differences in our policies and in our approach to how we award financial aid. And the only way you're really going to know what that is to talk to us.
Don't put financial aid off to the last minute. Whatever you do in the way of admissions planning, keep a financial plan going along with it. Have a variety of colleges, not only where your son or daughter wants to go to school for academic reasons, but also consider financial reasons in organizing a college list. Talk to people who know what they're talking about financial aid. Don't just limit it to the cocktail party circuit and what your neighbor said about how financial aid works. And finally, visit the financial aid office. When you make a campus tour, if financial matters are consideration in that particular college, stop by and talk to the financial aid people for a while and find out what it's all about. Make personal contact. It may pay off farther down the line.
There is a lot of financial aid out there, and there are a lot of financial aid professionals who are able and ready to help. They're just waiting for people to come to them and ask for advice.
And they mean it, really, they do. Few examples of strategies. Apply broadly. You don't have to apply to only one type of school, all private universities, all public, all big, all small. We urge families to apply to a range of colleges that will include both public and private because of cost differential, and include a college that is not only a so-called security admissions, as the phrase goes, but also would be a financial security. It might be your local college, your state school. It might be a school where your academic profile puts you so well above their typical admit profile that they're going to do everything not only to admit you, but persuade you to come by using merit-based money and so forth. And keep in mind, no two financial aid packages are ever going to be the same. You have to ask all these questions, and as these people have just invited you and everyone else to do, call, go see them before you make a final commitment to where you're going to attend college.
Many families choose to pay for college out of their current income. Depending on a family's overall income, this might be a short-term option. There are several ways to ease the cash flow burden. Some students might choose to start their undergraduate education in a less expensive school or choose a particular college because of the financial aid it can offer. Other families might work to pay off a mortgage early, then use their usual mortgage payment to pay for school.
We hope we've given you a sense of the different components associated with paying for college. It's not easy, but there is an approach that you can take starting from very early years with saving and starting to set an expectation that college is a value we have as a family, that college is worth it. And it's also important to start then thinking as you get closer to looking at colleges, what colleges am I interested in? How much cost will I be incurring? What kind of special scholarships can I apply for? And then as you move forward through the years, really starting to think about how can I afford the colleges that I get admitted to? What kind of debt will I take out, scholarships, etc. There is a way to do this. There is an approach you can follow that will make college possible.
Now, this is the time in a program where we really welcome questions. We love hearing from students and parents with what's on your mind. Anyone want to jump in with the first question?
In the back over here.
If your child is fortunate enough to be offered financial aid packages at more than one school, but the lower amount is at the preferred school, is it ever appropriate to go back to the financial aid office and ask if they can match it?
It's a tricky situation, but yes, and more actually colleges are inviting students to come back in. Sometimes they do it in the award letter or the admission letter. If financial aid is a reason that you may not attend this college, please talk to us. What we find is a sort of honest and direct approach to the financial aid office is what's going to help. Sometimes that involves literally faxing the award plus a letter explaining that the college in question is a first choice and asking them to reconsider the award. You'll find that they don't like the word negotiate very much in the financial aid offices. It means the same thing, But again, if it's a school that is really the preferred school for a student, there's nothing wrong with saying, we'd really like to come here, but financial need is a concern of ours, and we have other great admission choices. We have other aid offers available. Could you do something to either shift the burden from loans to scholarships and grants, or increase the overall financial aid award? And it's absolutely something the colleges welcome.
Sometimes you're actually helping the particular college, because colleges by federal law are not allowed to compare notes with each other. And so therefore they may say, well, maybe we missed something in the financial analysis for that student if he not only got into these other quality schools, for example, but got a bigger award. Let us go back and review the financial information at your request. So otherwise they can't do that without your request. Yes, question over here.
What advice would you have for a student who did not do well in high school academically but still would like help paying for college?
Very, very good question. And I would say if there are only 10% of students who can be in the top 10% of the class, at least a lot of other kids out there, doesn't it? And there are many students and parents concerned for both how their children are going to get admitted to college and, of course, how they're going to pay. To me, the most extraordinary thing about the United States is we have over 3,500 colleges and universities. And the cliche is true. There's a school for anybody and everybody, and as we often add on, at least to get started in. And here's a figure that may astound all of you. Only about 60% of students on average graduate from the college they began their studies at. One of the groups in that category are students who start at a local, less competitive school, whether it's a community college, a local state college, perhaps a less competitive private college out there. And if they do well, as many students really don't mature into good students until they get to college, they can transfer. Often, but no guarantee, there can be aid awards for a student who excels in that first year or two. So in a way, students and parents shouldn't say, we didn't do well in high school, we're not going to get into college, and we're certainly not going to get aid. That is not true.
Yes, you said earlier that admissions decisions and financial aid decisions were made separately. But are there exceptions to that? For example, I've heard that public universities, in evaluating out-of-state student applications, may be interested in the money that they're going to contribute and would not want to spend their financial aid on those students.
Well, I did a search myself recently, and several state universities, to your point, made it very clear that there is scholarship funding for out-of-staters who are well-qualified students, and others really don't have a statement, but they're going to use most of their money for in-staters. But again, every university, whether it's private or public, is going to start with federal funds and state funding that can go with you wherever you're going to go to college. So you shouldn't feel like there's a harness holding you back from looking more broadly.
Remember that our point about putting some savings away is going to give you more options. When it gets down to looking at financial need for a school that might be need aware at some stage of their admission process, if you've got some money in savings to at least partially afford the education, you might be more likely at that point to get the admission offer and a partial aid award than a student that might have full need, because the institution is at least getting someone who can help pay for some of the cost. So it goes back to that savings. But you're right that some schools, particularly at some stage of the application process, may become need aware once they realize they have to fill their college entrance class and also maintain their admission budget.
What we hope you've taken away from this program is that you are in control of the future of your children, both in terms of college admissions, but also being able to afford to pay for it. Remember that pie chart that we had up there? You can control some of those sources by planning. Some families are starting earlier to plan, some are in midstream, and some are there already. But each of you should develop your plan around how you're going to pay for college. It's doable.
What better way to end our discussion today than to hear from some of the students who are already in college successfully paying their way.
The way that I'm paying for college is
2 scholarships and 2 grants.
I wait tables at a couple different restaurants.
Loans from my parents.
Grants from Princeton.
And I have a part-time position.
A Pell Grant and a Cal Grant.
Scholarships and my own loans.
I've definitely had to work.
My parents are paying for my tuition and stuff, and all the books and stuff.
I get a scholarship. My parents are paying for school entirely.
My parents pay for my college, both of them.
And also outside scholarships that I've won.
I received the Pell Grant.
40% grant.
And I have a campus job.
40% scholarship.
My parents are paying for it.
And then the rest is taken up by parent contribution.
I also work over the summer usually to save and pay for my books.
My parents are helping me out, but then I have to take a couple loans to get by.
Using previous work savings from high school along with scholarships, and I've used the money I've earned from those two sources. I invested them to create a greater return and use that to pay for my tuition.
Learn more about paying for college with the Greens. Find worksheets, additional interviews, and more at pbs.org.
Funding for Paying for College with the Greens is provided by
You have within you a precious gift. Whatever you do,
whatever challenges you face, you can succeed
because you can learn your whole life through. Thompson Learning, a part of the Thompson Corporation, delivers tailored learning solutions worldwide.
Bank One believes that when it comes to personal, business, and institutional financial needs, you deserve the answer that's right for you. This hour of Paying for College with the Greens is proudly supported by Bank One.
J.P. Morgan Chase, providing financial services to individuals, institutions, corporations, and governments around the world, is proud to bring you Paying for College with the Greens on PBS.